Hey, welcome to the Timmy Riggs podcast, Life in the Meantime. I feel like this is a very timely in the meantime message, and it is directed towards college students, but specifically college students with student loans. And I feel like this is timely because we have a lot of students graduating right now, and I'm super sad that the graduation had to be kind of the weird way that it was. They weren't able to meet in an auditorium, but at the school that I'm kind of connected to, Southern Nazarene, they had a really nice graduation ceremony, and they tried to make it really special online, and so hats off to them. But this is directed right to college students, and I want to talk about your student loans. And this is the people who graduate with student loans. I know some people are lucky or blessed or whatever. They worked really hard, and they walked out with no student loans, and congrats to you. That is awesome. You can start running and not have to worry about that. But there are many who are in the flip side, the opposite. They have maybe medium-sized student debt or large student debt, and I understand that. So this is a message from experience. I just want to share a couple things that I have learned while working to pay off my student debt. So I'll get kind of right into it. I'll tell you a little about my story. So I graduated with a huge student debt, was pretty sad about it, even sometimes bitter, and then I kind of realized, it's my responsibility. Nobody else forced me to take that student loan. Nobody forced me to go to the school that I went to. It's totally up to me. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. All of my, everything that I've learned, my education and my experiences and relationships are thanks to that. So now I've got to pay it off. Okay, so I it's my responsibility. I need to do it, not complain about it, and then just get it over with, right? And so we know there's so many kind of different methods out there, and obviously Dave Ramsey's a huge voice when it comes to paying off debt, and especially student debt, and I really like a lot of his methods and stuff. So that's kind of where I'm turning towards. But let me tell you a couple things. So for me, I know even my parents still helped, and I still had a huge student debt. Some of that came from being a poor student early on in college, so I wasn't able to get some of the scholarships that you could if you just did your schoolwork. But anyway, I graduated with like $70,000 student debt, okay? So I'm just saying that you don't got to feel bad for me, which you probably aren't. You're like, no, you're an idiot, and that's fine. But nonetheless, I'm working on it. So basically, here's a couple things to learn. So I got that down a little bit, and I got it down to 65, or 62 rather. And then I started in seminary. So I started some part-time schooling, which a lot of people do for my master's, right? And that happens to a lot of people. What happens is the school communicates with the government. I don't really know. But all of a sudden they said, hey, your loan is deferred. And I was like, awesome. That means you don't have to pay and you don't worry about it, right? And while you're in school. And so I was like, cool, well, I won't. So for a year and a half, I didn't. What I learned was at the end, it actually wasn't deferred. It was on forbearance, okay? So huge difference between deferment and forbearance, because what happened was as soon as I stopped my master's program, all of a sudden I saw a jump of $3,000 jump into my student debt. So it went back to 65, and I was like, what in the world? And that was all because it was on forbearance, which just means your interest continues to accrue, and at the end they tack it on. So even in the meantime, I didn't see it happening. It just happened later. Again, you can be like, well, Tim, you should have paid attention to that. You are absolutely right. It was my fault. I should have known. But now I am getting it out there in case anybody else doesn't know about that, right? So the difference between deferment, where you're saying, hey, I really need help. And you can apply for these things if you're in a situation where it's really tough, right? If you lose your job or something, medical issue happens big time, you can sign up for these 12 months programs where it's either deferred or forbear. But again, you have to apply, you have to get through the process. And deferment truly is, if you get a 12-month deferment plan, you don't have to pay anything, no interest accrues. But that's pretty rare to get on that plan, and a lot of people will end up getting the forbearance plan, and the interest still accrues. So let me just give you two examples. So one is, let's say you have a $20,000 student debt, and you're like, hey, I'm going to start my master's program, or I'm going to do something that takes a year or two, right? Well, you don't pay anything, and especially if it's a 2-year program, you're going to end up paying like $2,000 at the end. So if your student debt was $20,000, when you are done after just 1 year, it's now $21,000. So they've added a whole $1,000 to it, okay? And for me, my situation was it was at 62, and after a year and a half, it jumped up to 65. So $3,000 of interest was added to it, right? And not to mention, even when you are paying down anyway, you are paying on the student debt. So that was one of the major things I learned. The other thing I learned in the beginning was I was making $250 monthly payment, $300 monthly payment minimum, and I had a full-time job, but I was just trying to think like, maybe I want to wait for a minute before I really start jumping at it or whatever. Well, I learned that I ended up paying like $3,700, okay? So I was like, good, I feel good. I can see that I'm paying down on it. And then I went and looked and realized I'd only paid down like $400. So out of the $3,700 I paid into it, I only paid down $400 because of interest. And again, that's going to be different for everybody's loan payment because, your interest is connected to the principal, so which is the main balance that you owe, right? So my interest works off of $62,000, where if you only have a $20,000 loan, your interest is going to work off that, right? It's not just a fixed. It might be a fixed interest rate, but it might not be a fixed number. That's going to change, which is good news if you have a really high one and you're working your way down. Okay, so that was the other thing I learned. Probably the most important was my $250 to $300 measly payment wasn't getting me anywhere. Well, it was. It was me helping pay for the government to give out maybe more loans, and in like 70 years or something, I would have paid it off, and it would have ended up being like something ridiculous. I don't remember the numbers, whatever, but it was like double, triple the amount, right? So it's like, okay, that's not really worth it either. So my advice is, I think that when you graduate, you maybe have that 3 to 6 month period where it is truly deferred. You don't have to pay, no interest gets calculated. I don't know though, because I've made some mistakes before, so maybe just start paying right away. And I would say if you jump into a full-time job and you're living below your means, which is super easy to do when you just come out of college because you get your first paycheck and you feel like a millionaire, right? Start paying heavy amounts into your student debt. Wouldn't you rather just get rid of it, run free? Couldn't agree with Dave more on those kinds of things. So I'll be just transparent and kind of even talk to you a little bit about my numbers now. So as we move into this summer region, the next couple months, I'll have it down to 53. Okay, so I'll owe $53,000 in student debt, and I'm sharing all this because it's in the meantime, right? And I learned even at the pace that I've been paying the last like 7 months or so, paying $1,200 down a month. That is what allows me to pay $1,000 actually, because the 200, it's really 200 to 250 of interest that it's just paying off, right? So I'm really only paying $1,000 off. So, if you are paying a car payment, if you're paying your mortgage, you know how that works. You know that all the money you're paying down isn't actually going to the principal. And so make sure you're paying attention, because if your goal is like, I want to pay $700 a month to pay down my $35,000 student debt, then you need to probably be paying almost close to $1,000, right? Like you need to be paying like $890 or $930 to actually hit that $750 if that's what your actual goal is. So you need to be aware and live really, really carefully, right? So for me, I'm like, I want to get rid of this thing. I really do. I don't want it anymore. I feel the weight of it. I'm 27. I'm just like, how great would it be to get into my 30s and not have to pay for this anymore? And we have no consumer debt. We have nothing else other than this. We have the mortgage of our duplex, and then eventually are going to be moving into our house. But the mortgages, again, like even Dave doesn't hate on those as much. Obviously, we have a little bit different view there, but like I really just want to get rid of this debt. Okay, so because now, like, sure, I am reaping the rewards of my education. And it truly helped me become a lifelong learner, all of that I said before. But, you're paying to something that you don't really see any more benefits of anymore. And so I want to make sure that I get rid of this thing. And so we are upping it and trying to, basically it's a non-negotiable. My standard is I have to pay $1,200 a month on my student debt no matter what. Okay, and that ensures that I do it about 4 years, it'll be paid off. But I also want to just throw as much money as possible when I can add it. And so any extra money, I would love to really get up close to that 1900 range. And I know it stings, but I'm saying all of it, and I'm sharing that because, you can do it. We have very limited payments, and obviously, always the future, we don't know. Anything could happen, and I'm fine with that, right? Man can plan his ways, God directs his steps, and I think that even if something really challenging and hard happens, God's still going to be in it with us, and so I'm not stressed out about that. And I'm going to stick to my plan of saying, hey, no matter what, $1,200 a month, and we'll live really, really frugally all in the other areas of our life. One thing for me, too, because other people are like, oh, what are you just going to steal communion wafers from the church and eat those? What are you going to do? And I'm like, no, for me, I love food, right? So I want to have good food, and Emma and I have been working really hard on making a healthy diet with good food, and a lot of it because I like to eat a lot. And so it's that's one really important thing to me. So it's no, I'm not going to eat communion wafers. We're going to have a nice budget for being able to buy food, but we're not going out a lot. I'll tell you that. So that's the part of it that's really important. So make your budget too. I would say that. I've talked about that in other podcasts, but if you don't make your budget and you just say you're going to pay, $750 or $1,000 a month on your student debt, probably won't if you don't have a budget, because you're just going to be like, oh, I bought this thing, I bought that thing. Yeah. So that's that. Those are the big ones, and I would just say attack it. Don't see the minimum payment that they're, luring you into. Don't be excited about that. Be like, oh, I only have to pay $180 on my $42,000 loan. No, forget that. Don't give them any more money than they need, right? It's great. You appreciate that they let you borrow it, and you don't really hate the fact that there's interest because, again, that's the price of them letting you borrow their money. But attack it. Pay it off as soon as possible. So I'll tell you right now, if you're graduating and you have a student debt and you just got a full-time job in the midst of all this, and I know it's hard right now with the COVID-19 thing, it's kind of weird. So maybe you didn't get a job right away, but if you did and you have that time period where you don't have to pay, start paying right away. Also, everybody else who is going through the COVID-19, again, I understand. If something happened in your life, if you lost a job or something serious happened with your family, I get it. Take advantage of the pause that the government is giving you. But right now, everybody who has a student debt, it's deferred fully. No interest is going to be accrued, and that ends in September. Okay, so there's about 5 or 6 months here where you're able to kind of get yourself together. But maybe it's also a great time to attack it, and that's how I'm seeing it. And the situation that we are in with just the discipline that we've been living in the last really 2 or 3 years financially, with our stimulus check, we are dumping that right in to my student debt. I just feel like that's the best move, and it's helpful. And, it's the government giving back some of my money, so I might as well hand it right back to them. But it's helping me take it down a pretty nice chunk, right? So whatever you're able to do, and I understand, I don't want to, I am not bragging or boasting or anything. I understand everybody's situation is different. I'm just saying, play the cards you've been dealt. If you're able to do something about it, do it. If you're able to say, you know what, I can give my stimulus check towards it, I'm going to do it, whatever, But again, this message really is more importantly, I want to talk to students who are going into the workforce now, having to start to pay off their student debt. I would say pick a number, say, I want it gone in 5 years. Here's what it would take. Include the interest. Don't be silly about that. And go after it and set up your budget accordingly so you can really attack it, really do it. And right now, if you're able to, don't not pay on it, because I think it's so great that you're able to pay on it. There's no penalty for you to pay right now. And since there's no interest, you're truly paying principal only. And so that's fantastic. And so if you can get in there, jump on it, do. My goal is to be done in 2 years, and it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of budgeting and discipline, but you can do it. And I want to add to this, we have some non-negotiables in our budgets, and that is, number one, our tithe, giving generously there. Number two, we have some other things. We're helping with our sanctuary renewal, and we have some other kind of contribution things that we do and we're a part of. And then obviously your food and your mortgage and some other small things. And then my student debt. But other than that, I can say I have like 7 things that I have to make sure that I pay. And at the end of the day, that number one is I want to make sure my giving, my generosity is up there. And I also know that for me to be able to give more, it's going to be a whole lot better when I don't have debt, right? So I'm able to pay off, do my regular giving, and then pay off my student debt. And when I do that, you know how free I'm going to feel and how much easier it's going to be to give in situations where right now it's kind of tough, you know? So that's, I think, just another motivation for me and could be a motivation for you. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with you. If you can attack it, attack it. Don't wait. Don't let them trick you. If you start your master's program, don't think, oh, sweet, it's on forbearance. I don't have to pay anything. You will at the end. And I know that my student debt level is high, but man, there's still other people that have even higher ones. So there's that. Also, let me add this. Another thing, it's really simple, but get some side hustles. So many people do it. You selling hair, selling makeup, going clean windows like we do. Do whatever it takes to help pay off your student debt. It's totally worth it. I feel better each month as I know that number is getting lower, and I'm working hard to make it happen. And so there's that. So anyway, good luck, and you can do it. Everybody does it. I think that's what's fun about the Dave Ramsey show and watching his social media is he shares every day someone who just said, hey, we're debt-free. And that's awesome, and that's encouraging. And that's kind of why I wanted to share this today and give you the exact numbers, because sometimes I hear people and I'm like, yeah, but what does that mean, right? And I just want to let you know I'm in the middle of it. And I'm excited to come out the other side of it. And I've put a plan together, a strategy, and we're heading after it. So you can do the same thing, and I think it's even better. I'm 27. If you're graduating, you're 22. Imagine a 5-year plan. You could be done, right? You don't have to make the couple year mistakes that I made, where I spent a whole year paying minimum payments and then a year and a half not paying anything and, just watching it do nothing. So jump at it, attack it. And I believe you're going to feel so much better, even in the middle of attacking it. That's how I feel, I've been reading through, I'll close right now, but I've been reading through Joshua, the book of Joshua. And at one point, God is kind of leading him to defeat kingdom after kingdom as they're expanding into the promised land. And it's so intriguing to me because it's like all of chapter 11 is about Joshua just going to war nonstop. And then a verse 29, so chapter 11, 29, it says that, and then they took all the land, and the land had rest from war. And I thought, man, can you imagine what that's going to be like on your budget, on your stress, on your anxiety, when you make war on your student debt, and at the very end of it, truly on that last payment, you just get to say, and then my budget, my stress, my thoughts, my life, even my generosity expanded, but all those things have rest now, and I don't have to be stressed out about it. So anyway, get after it. Good luck. Congratulations on graduating. And hey, this goes for anybody, though. If you're 10 years in and you've been making minimum payments, now you're like, hey, maybe we can readjust and start attacking it and get done with this thing. I don't know. But if it's helpful, let me know and share it with some people. Again, there's just 2 small tips in there, but make sure you're watching for those things. All right. Hope you have a great day.